In theory, Nick Berkovich should be feeling good about life. He's worked at Timothy Taylor's brewery in Keighley in Yorkshire for 24 years. Like the rest of the staff here, he got a 4% pay rise last year and benefits from a company profit share scheme. But ask him about the future and you can hear the emotion in his voice.
We're seriously worried about making ends meet. I think we could even be north of £6,000 a year for our energy bills next year.
So have you, in effect, felt the benefit of that 4% wage rise?
Not for long. It really hasn't made much difference to us at all. If anything, we've gone backwards.
Does that worry you?
It does worry me. When you put it all together, I'd really hope to have a good life for our family, our kids, but it's not quite where I wanted it to be.
Nick's concerns are borne out by figures published today. They show that wages, excluding bonuses, have gone up by 4.7%. But with inflation at 9.4%, real wages have actually fallen by 3%. That's the biggest drop in 2 decades.
So the big picture today is inflation continues to outstrip salaries, and as a result, consumers and households are changing behaviours already in terms of what they buy and how much they buy and when they buy it.
Unlike households, there's no cap on energy prices for businesses like Timothy Taylor's. From October, the company faces a 5-fold increase in its electricity bill, a hike from £230,000 a year to more than £1 million.
I just think it's extraordinary, and I suppose my honest reaction is, I know people are looking to the government for short-term help now, whether it's with consumer energy bills. I've also highlighted to numerous people, including our local MP, that there's been no talk really of businesses.
And no cap on those energy bills?
There's absolutely no cap. Let me tell you, just utilities is driving a massive hole in next year's financials. And then, of course, we overlay on that the investment we're making in the infrastructure. And we've got a board meeting at the beginning of September, and I don't think the board are going to like what they see in the annual plan that we've got for next year.
It's not just inflation that's rising. Job vacancies are too, according to the Office for National Statistics, with more than 1 million posts currently unfilled. Like the rest of the hospitality industry, Timothy Taylor's is struggling to find kitchen staff at all of its 19 pubs.
We've just reopened this pub here after a major refurbishment, and literally half of the kitchen staff are agency, which obviously has a cost related to that.
They're more expensive than if you have staff?
Yes.
And why are you relying on agency staff that much, 50%?
Because we can't attract anybody to fill that position directly ourselves.
And why do you think that is?
Lack of applicants, and as I said, that's probably because the applicants out there, or the ones that are out there, don't regard this as attractive as they used to.
But it's inflation caused by rising prices, not staff shortages, that has proved fatal for this farm shop near York. After 22 years, the couple who own it are closing.
Yeah, we're all on target.
It's the prospect of a 3-fold rise in the cost of energy that has pushed them over the edge.
It's going to be an emotional day, isn't it, when you close the door?
It is, yes. It'll be very strange, and even worse the day after, when we don't get up and come to work. So, yes.
How will you cope with that?
I'm not really sure, but I'm a busy person, so I won't be resting on my laurels. I'll be doing something.
It's not just Lily and her husband Stuart who'll be out of work. 4 other staff are also losing their jobs. The end of an era, not just for them, but their customers too.
Well, earlier I spoke to the General Secretary of the Trades Union Congress, Frances O'Grady, and Siobhan Haviland, who's Director General of the British Chambers of Commerce. I put it to Siobhan Haviland that, given today's figures, businesses were now under huge pressure to cave into employee demands for wage rises.
So, look, the numbers out this morning showed that in the UK we still have nearly 1.3 million open roles. It's a massive struggle for businesses in terms of filling those roles and finding the staff. It means that effectively, by not having enough people, they're having to cut back on productivity, they're having to turn away customers. I travel around the country and meet businesses all over. I was in the north a couple of weeks ago, hotels that are saying they've got great demand, but they can't fulfill it because they can't find enough people. Or
so then job seekers can really name their price, can't they?
And if you're a small or medium-sized enterprise, you're beginning to lose people to bigger businesses who, frankly, can sustain, higher wages.
Francis O'Grady, do your members have any sympathy for the challenges facing businesses that you've just heard there? Or is it a question of really just demanding the highest pay rise you can?
I think working people just want to make sure that they at least keep up with the cost of living. And we've got millions of families who are really struggling now, facing eye-watering bills, energy bills, as you said, but shrinking pay packets too. And, we just heard from the Bank of England predicting that we were going to get the biggest fall in real wages for hundreds of years. Similarly, we know we've had the longest squeeze on living standards in this country for 200 years. Something has to change.
So be blunt about the real life impact of what you've just described.
Well, I'm speaking to families who are worried about how they pay for school uniforms. They're worried about how they're going to face those energy bills as they come through the door. And people are feeling we're just not getting a fair crack of the whip here. We see boardroom pay, top pay rising. We've seen divvies to shareholders soar. Why is it always working people who have to get their pay packets hammered whenever we're in a crisis? Somebody else will have to take the hit this time. And we want to see a freeze on that energy price cap so that people have some certainty in terms of planning their household budgets. I think this government just doesn't understand how worried and desperate many working families are.
I'll come back to the politics in a second, but Siobhan Haviland, your members need to take more of the hit than they are doing, don't they?
So what we like to see from government is two things. Our members are telling us that the inflation for them is being driven by their rises in their energy costs and by the problems finding labour. So if government needs to do two things, they need to open some of the shortage occupation lists to relieve the pressure on workers so that they can pay more.
So issue more visas for things like fruit pickers, for example.
Exactly. But they also need help with the other costs. So like households have an energy price cap, we would like government to look at how they can help businesses, because a lot of small businesses, remember, do buy energy like consumers, but of course they don't have a price cap. So their bills have gone up hundreds of %.
Francis, you've said the government has got to do more and freeze energy bills, for example. Both Conservative leadership candidates have promised to do more when they get in, when and if whoever becomes Prime Minister. But the government can't just cave into eye-watering pay demands and fuel inflation further, can they?
The government is protecting the wealthy by promising to slash corporation tax at completely the wrong time when it's families who are really struggling. And so they need to get a grip. They need action now on that price cap.
Some people in government think that the unions are actually, they've got the upper hand here. We've got train strikes this week. We've got an underground strike. Next week, we've got port workers going on strike, followed by Royal Mail, barristers, nurses and teachers are threatening to strike. I mean, some look at what's happening in the union movement at the moment and think you're holding the country to ransom.
Well, that should be an argument for more people joining unions, because that is the best way to get fair pay.
Or it could be an argument that you're taking the country down the path to ruin.
The only people who are holding the country to ransom is a government that currently is trying to attack the last line of defence that many working people have, and that's their unions.
Which of the Tory leadership candidates do you think has your back?
So, as an organisation, we are apolitical. We work with the leadership candidates and all the parties. And what we want to say to them is we need policies in place that will help grow businesses, because strong businesses lead to a strong economy, which lead to strong societies.
Have you seen those policies yet? Because it's been quite policy light in terms of detail, hasn't it?
Policies written on the back of a fact packet, I'd suggest. I mean, again, we all understand in the middle of a leadership contest that there's going to be a bit of theatre, but in fact the rest of the country has got serious issues that need addressing now, and we can't wait weeks, let alone months, to get some action to deal with the real cost of living crisis and falling real wages.
Is Keir Starmer on your side?
Oh, I think the plan that Labour has for a new deal for workers would make a huge difference. The other news...
He's on your side?
He's on the side of working people.
Just a final thought from you, Siobhan, on these many strikes that are looming over the next few weeks. What's going to be the impact for your members?
So on the strikes, we're absolutely, as Francis said, about hoping employees and employers can get around the table and come to the right solution.
And if they can't, what's the
Clearly,
impact?
strikes like train strikes, for example, do stop business people and goods moving around the country, and all of this is going to impact businesses and the costs that they're seeing already.
Siobhan Haviland, Francis O'Grady, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.